Hi, welcome to another episode of I Know What I Know. I'll be your host, Josh Zabak. Today, we're going to continue our 10-part series of diving into the sales process. Of course, that's the book written by my father, Michael Zabak, 10 Steps to High Definition Selling. And it's a 10-step sales process that's been adapted over the past half century, not created by him, perhaps refined, but used everywhere. Used in most places. Some might have a 9-step selling process. Some might be 10. Some might be 11. In some form or fashion, sales guys have a process. They're career salespeople. A lot of people think that sales guys just go in, present a product, tell them the price. By the way, my guest host.
My name is Cesar Romero, and I'm always happy to be here sharing information with y'all.
But yeah, I trained Caesar on the sales process back probably 9 years ago. I think I personally have trained over 250 salespeople on the sales process. And this is a sales process that I have been learning since I was 6 years old. Sales processes are good because it gives people a direction to go into. It's bad because ultimately sales guys only get paid if they sell, which means if you need the product or if you don't need the product, they're still going to attempt to sell you. Now, you have some sales guys that won't do that, and typically those sales guys are fired because they're not good salespeople, a good salesperson. And we'll cover this next week. This is another step, is creating the need. A good sales guy is going to create a need. In fact, this step of the process is called the warm-up. So this is after you've called a sales guy out to your house, after they've made entry into your house, and now you guys are sitting down wherever that sales guy told you to sit down. Hopefully you watched last week's episode and you know how to stop them from controlling you and stop them from putting you in places that you don't want to be, whether it be your kitchen and they take you to your dining room or your dining room and they take you to your living room, whether they get your husband to get up and they sit in his seat and move you guys around. That's all controlling behavior, and sales guys are doing that for a reason. So this is after all of that. Like I said, check out last week's episode if you missed it. This week, we're talking about the warm-up. People buy from people they like. If a customer doesn't like a sales guy, odds are they're probably not going to buy off you. How many bad confrontations have you had with customers and still sold them?
Not many, man. Not any at all.
And it's funny because like one of my friends was talking to me and they're like, oh, do you get along with this person, this person? I'm like, man, I get along with everybody. Good sales guys get along with everybody because they know how to mold their personality. I was taught by a guy also named Gary. Gary told me a long time ago, you need to be a light switch. You also need to be a chameleon. If you walk into a house and somebody has Pittsburgh Steelers, if I'm allowed to say that, memorabilia, Ravens Nation, baby. If they have all Steelers stuff, I don't care if I'm a Ravens fan. I would never tell them I'm a Ravens fan. I am a Steelers fan. If they're sided to one side of the political spectrum, that's what side I'm on. If they're on the other side, that's what side I'm on too. Whatever side they're on, that's where I'm going to go as a sales guy. So I need to learn how to morph my personality. And we'll get into this later. That might be one of the good things that I learned, because that's not a bad thing. I mean, I think that's what, and I don't want to deviate here, but social media, I feel like, has led people to become super on their side only. You know, people who were neighbors that were best friends before now see each other's social media posts and realize they're at different ends of the political spectrum and they don't know how to get along with each other. And that's just crazy.
Right.
So that might be the good thing that you learn how to mold, because just because somebody's on one side and you're on the, it shouldn't matter. That doesn't come up in the course of friendship, but it does. So knowing that it does, sales guys have to adapt to the person that they're sitting in front of. Whenever you get into the warm-up, again, it's your goal during the warm-up is to give that customer the warm and fuzzy feeling inside that I'm with the right person, they understand me, they're listening to me. Customers want to feel that way. So innately, they fall into that trap. Gary also taught me, I'll never forget, I went on a cruise and I went into a house and I start telling the customer, oh man, I just got back from the Bahamas. It was amazing. And I got out of that house and Gary screamed at me. It's like, why? And why we can cut this out if I need to, but why the are you telling them about what you did? Nobody gives about you. You're not there to talk about you, the salesperson. You're there to get the customer talking about themselves. Humans just like to talk about themselves. So the more as a salesperson during that step that you can get the customer to tell you about themselves, they're literally telling you a guide on how to sell them. And they don't even realize it.
They don't. And that's why, number one, hit like and subscribe and keep watching. But in reality, it leads to bad decisions that can impact somebody's life over the long term. And like we've said before, not all salespeople are bad. Some of them have good intentions. Some of them are sort of new, or that they have good intentions or don't know how their company actually works.
They
or
only
stuff
know
like
what they
that,
know.
right? So that's what it is the importance of learning these steps. And I think the warm up is probably one of the biggest ones because it was
Absolutely.
like harped into our brains. And there's some positives that do come out of it, as a person who's learned those things and then evolves to do other things. But there's a lot of negatives as well. And
There
like I said,
is.
the biggest thing is, in my mind, people making bad investments, really really bad decisions that impact them over the long haul because some guy came to their house who worked on commission.
And they felt that warm and fuzzy feeling, and they felt that that sales guy had their best interest at heart, and they felt that they were giving them the honest, most up-to-date information. But again, a sales guy only knows what he knows. He's not going to come in there and not sell you. It's not called a not sales guy. It's called a sales guy, right? So their job is to sell you. Doesn't matter. The first pitfalls of the warm-up step that as a consumer you're not thinking about that you have to watch out for is a early, and again, we'll go over this next week. This is another step, but it starts in this step, and it's called creating the need. A good sales guy knows how to make a mountain out of a molehill. They know how to see, and I keep going to window sales because that's what I was raised on, but this can be applied to any sale, right? If he finds a little bit of rotten wood, that's going to be enough for a good salesperson to spin that into the biggest problem in the world where you feel like you need to make an adjustment and you need to purchase. Customers don't buy if they don't want, and they don't buy if they don't need. So creating the need starts at the warm up. If you notice right off the bat, and I'm talking 10, 15 minutes into your sales presentation when a sales guy comes out to your house, if he starts just touching on little things, like, hey, I noticed that wood was rotted up there. Did that bother you? Or we'll get to it later. He's planting seeds. That guy is a farmer. And every seed he plants, he's going to water it a little bit through the presentation. So over the course of a 3-hour presentation, everything that he touched on, again, mountains out of molehills, will be significant problems in your mind after he's kind of scared you a little bit. Selling with urgency is a big thing. A sense of urgency is created. In other words, a reason for you to buy. It's going to be explained to you up front. And this can be from, again, your windows are going to rot out. If you have rotten windows, you're going to have water infiltration. If you have water infiltration in your wall, oh, what do you have there? You have an electrical outlet. Do water and electric mix? Probably not. Have you ever been in a house fire? Well, you might. Sales guys are going to plant that seed early on. Is that going to happen? Probably not.
Right.
But is a sale going to happen if they don't create a need? Absolutely not. So the first thing, again, is little things that they're pointing out. Everything is for a reason. The main thing during the warm-up, again, it's easier to sell to a warm person than a cold person. In other words, one of my best customers, unfortunately, and we did at both companies I was at, we always had a rule, and hopefully you remember this, don't sell to the senile, like people who don't know they're making a decision. But there's companies that do that all the time. In fact, maybe one of the companies that I work for didn't do that. You might not even know this, but had a Supreme Court case. Check it out right here. Seriously.
Wow.
Nuts. Because they were given, federally, you get a 3-day right of rescission. When you're dealing with in-home sales, if somebody comes into your house and they're selling you high pressure, legally, They have to give you a 3 business day right of rescission. Now, if people are over 65 in some places, I believe it's a 7-day right of rescission, the federal law. With that being said, if you give somebody the right of rescission, you have to give it to them, you would think. But the law actually doesn't state that you have to give them the paperwork.
Wow.
So what this company was doing was taking the notice of cancellation. You sign here, great, boom. And they'd slide it under the couch. Well, I gave it to you. It's there. You have a copy. But will your son find that when he comes to your house and he's like, Mom, you just spent $12,000 on 8 windows? What? We got to get out of this. And in his packet, there won't be a notice of cancellation. So now that company can justify to the Supreme Court, we didn't violate any laws because they signed here. It's crazy. It's crazy. And you have to protect yourself. Otherwise, you're susceptible to that. These sales guys, especially with older people, the older, the warmer, the more they wanted to talk to you, the easier the warm up became, because people will open themselves up and make themselves susceptible to a first call close. First call close, by the way, means the first time we go out to your house, we get you to sign on the dotted line. You'll hear me say that a couple times. When I say first call close, it's the same as high pressure sale. It's the same as low pressure sale. It's the same as using a velvet pressure, whatever, velvet hammer. Still forcing people to do stuff that in their right mind, and I say their right mind because a salesman is casting ether over that customer.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays, it's so easy. It's so easy because what you look on your phone and you're inundated with negativity. If that sales guy is the most positive, upbeat, fresh air that you've smelled all day, you're under his spell and you don't even realize it.
And I think that's one of the things that I helped me like the job at the time, when I had the sales job, right? Is that if anything, I could be a little bit of a bright part of their day, for that person. And it's like at the time that I learned it makes sense. But then it's like, okay, be a little bright part of their day, and then, stick it to them and make commissions and then put them in some crazy product or some crazy contract that all legal and just fine, right? But where people don't even realize how bad it is. So I do think it's has to do a lot of with, even though the sales process, like for example, the book that your dad wrote that very well, that I know very well, it can be changed and applied slightly to different businesses, right? But even though it changes slightly, there are some things that stay relatively the same, I think, because we're humans. We have a psychology that has been studied over and over again, and therefore, there are all these things like specific sentences and words and things that you can do or put in a certain order to make someone feel more comfortable with you, right? And so, again, salespeople are training in this. So you as a consumer, if you're not, you're going to be falling behind and potentially talking to making bad decisions because these other people are using tools that are out there. And so it's crazy because if you take the time to do a little research or watch all our videos, you'll start to see it in movies and shows, other places you go. You'll start to see, hey, that salesman's just warming up to me, right? That salesman's just warming up to that guy.
You can identify the step of the sales process. You could literally sit there and say, oh, they're on step 1. Oh, they're on step 2. Oh, they're on step 3. And start calling them out. Because if you think about it, somebody comes into your house to sell you something, why are we talking about my personal vacation? The customer. Like the sales guy who I don't know came in to sell me something. And now I'm talking about my vacation, my kids, my family, my next vacation, my car. He might touch on how much I pay for that car. I'm like, I'm not thinking anything. That's my friend, but he's really seeing what I'm willing to spend on stuff. They're really going through the brands in your house. They're really looking around saying, man, that's a Wolf stove. Here's a Wolf stove if you don't know what one is. They're expensive. They're commercial grade. Well, as a sales guy, I want to know if the customer bought it or if it came with the house. If the customer bought it, I know they got money to blow. It tells things about people, the clothes you wear, the car you drive, how your house is kept. Sales guys are designed to figure all this stuff out. You're going to hear me refer to my quiver of arrows. All that is salesmen loading up on ammunition so that they can shoot you with your own words or your own previous purchases. I say previous purchases because vacuum cleaners back in the day, Kirby vacuums was a big thing, right? Or Cutco knives. Cutco knives, Kirby vacuum cleaners both have sales reps that come, and now it's solar, and knock on your door and work their way into your house, make the entry, make the warm up, go through the other steps, and sell somebody a vacuum cleaner for like $1,500 or sell them knives for $1,000+ so that they can make their commission. So as a sales guy, if I see a Kirby vacuum cleaner or a Cutco knife set, I'm like, this is easy. They're an easy sale. And again, just like we talked about last episode, a sales guy wants to check off boxes because a sales guy goes off the vibe. The better their vibe is, the more they're making headway. The more they're making headway, the more they get excited and willing to spend more time in your house. The more time they spend in your house, the more your guards go down and the more your buying ability goes up. In other words, you might get to the point that you're like, yes, I did want 3 estimates. This guy's been so nice to me and he showed me other people's prices. He did the research for me. I feel comfortable with this guy. And I might be thinking, oh, I'm still going to get one more estimate. Oh, that was 2 hours ago? Oh, that was 3 hours ago? I might not get another estimate. Oh, we're 4 hours? You know what? I trust this guy. I'm just doing it. This is your inner monologue. And we know that as sales guys. And we can see that and we can evaluate it. What job do you go to and they don't have a process?
Right.
I'll bring up McDonald's because everybody talks crap about McDonald's. But even McDonald's has a process. At every step, at every booth. If you're making burgers, there's a process. If you're making chicken nuggets, there's a process. There's a book to follow. Why do you think professional salespeople who get paid 6 figures on the low end would not have a process?
Right. And like I said, that's a big thing of information and the things we follow, right? Because if we were given advice, hey, this is how you get information, now we have more access to those things like that. And so I think it's important what you talked about, that these things take a long time, right? So even in, like, for example, we beat up on the window industry because we know it, on solar because we know it, the pool industry because we know it, and the car industry because we know it. But it is very common in the car industry where you're purposely, even when there's nothing or reason to hold you up, they will hold you up because you're more likely to say and yes and agree to things when you're tired and you've already been. So whenever you're looking into a product or a company or something like that, it's okay to ask, hey, how long is this gonna take, and things like that, because true and honest company, they want to do work quick. They want to get you in and out of the door. Only companies trying to sell you something with too much of a profit in it or in some shady way is gonna want to be in your house for 4 hours. That's not smart for any business, unless it's worth it for them somehow. And usually that comes in the sense of a high profit, right? Mm-hmm. So where they're making their money on those few homeowners who are saying, yes, let's do what we're doing. So I think that's the crazy part of that warm up and how it ties into, if the salesperson does a good enough warm up and now you like them because they use those tools, now you're not likely to kick them out of their house for 2-3 hours. And now by those 3-4 hours are over, you're tired. You're most likely to say yes, and they know this.
We're probably going to have to do another episode on a lot of these at some point, honestly, because we wanted to keep them short and sweet. But if you guys want more of this, say something in the comments, because there's a lot more information. I mean, just on what you said, I thought of 3 things. The first thing is, we used to have a saying, the extra hour you spend in a house is the difference of you doubling your commission. See, every sales guy's job, besides creating the need and getting you to want to buy and all that good stuff, that's all settled. Like, that's easy to do as a sales guy with the right product presentation and people like we talked about. But it's to narrow everything down to price and terms. So the extra hour that they spend in your house are doubling their commission because it's whittling it down to price and terms. It's like, do I want to spend 3 hours in a house? If I want to spend less time in a house, I could just discount the product. I could call my manager, get a better price, get you to sign. If I want to make more money, I can sit on my price, not lower it, continue to justify it, spend an extra hour in that house, and you're going to spend the money. The other thing I was thinking of whenever you were going through uh, was cars. Can you buy a car without a salesman?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That company we were working at, I'll quickly tell this story because this is a really good scenario. I was driving, I had a Toyota Prius. I knew I needed another Prius. My battery went bad. So I started making calls. I started making calls to car dealerships. I said, this is what I'm looking for. I looked online, found the cars that I wanted, told them the price that I wanted, told them I was calling other dealerships, and whoever gave me the best price, I was going to that dealership to pick it up. I also told them if I come to the dealership and I spend more than 30 minutes there, because once I get approved, everything's done, I'm going there to pick it up. I'll leave. And I do that because of a previous circumstance where me and my wife traded in both of our cars. We got stuck at the Honda dealership, your tactic. We sat there. We got there at like 6 o'clock. We didn't leave there until 1 a.m. I didn't even know car dealerships were open till 1 a.m.
They're not, but they'll stay open.
But they'll stay open when it comes to justifying that price, and they know they're going to pull a commission. It's not out of the goodness of their heart. It's because they're getting paid. So when you're sitting with somebody, again, understand that they're playing a game and they're trying to get you right now. Understand that there's ways to avoid that. Just like when I called the 3 dealerships and they gave me the best price, and then I gave them one more shot because I want to do my due diligence as a consumer. So I called the other 2 and I said, this is what they told me. You either beat it or I'm going to buy it right now. Here's your shot. This is the easiest sale you're going to make. You don't need to meet with me. You don't need to spend any of your time. You're going to pull a commission somehow. Nobody's going to do it for free, and I don't expect them to do it for free. I just don't want to get ripped off. And then they said, okay. I pick up the car, I leave. One time, that Prius situation, because I buy all my cars like this now, I had the guy come out, and I went to pick it up, and he's like, hey, man, we got to take a test drive. It's like, I just told you I'm buying it, where we already have the price and terms settled. I'm not taking a test drive. He's like, yeah, but my boss is going to get upset. We make everybody take a test drive. I said, I think your boss is going to be a little bit more upset if you ruin a sale because you try and force me to take a test drive on a car I own already. What are we doing here?
He was just trying to go through his process.
And he was like, okay, you're right. And then he took the easy sale because I really will buy cars like that. So why can't you do that with everything? Because it's not what the industry norm is? Well, guess what? It's time to change the industry norm. Our lights are still red in remembrance of the death of salespeople.
That's what
the time has come. The time's not near. The time is now. And the more that people can understand that sales guys will always exist, again, I don't mind sales guys making commissions. They got to make an income. They have to make a wage. I have a problem with their wage being dependent on how good the customer plays that game, and y'all aren't trained. It's unfair. It's an unfair advantage. You're going to lose every time. How could you win? It's not a win-win. It's only a win-win if you're the sales guy selling yourself and you have an unlimited budget. I don't even know how that'd be a win-win. There's no win-win. The sales guy is going to get you. And it's not get you because he's out to get you or he's nefarious, he's the devil. He's out to get you because the sales guy only knows what he knows. And he knows he's got to make that sale to make an income. That's just the world we live in.
It is. And again, there's a lot of direct sales stuff. And there's other things, other businesses that maybe don't have a direct salesman, but they still have a rep. They just don't pay him as direct commission, but they're still making, let's say a certain profit that in reality they don't need to make, or they could go without. But that has to do a lot with the issues of capitalism and when it stops being good and all that. So it's very important to stay aware of what's out there, and like I said, and then come up with your own ways. So now I feel lucky enough to be able to ask you, right? Like what? So number one, for the warm up, it seems like, well, for a lot of these sales processes that we're talking about, now I'm going to pretend to be on like a consumer side, right? Or
Sure.
somebody that may be out there watching. If I'm on the consumer side, right, and I want to actually have somebody, right, or I need something, and I find that the only option is to get let's say 3 quotes or 3 estimates, and I go, and either I have somebody come to my house or I go to the deal, whatever the case may be. Since we're talking about the warm-up, and now that you are aware of what the warm-up is, what one liner, something, a phrase that a homeowner can do to respectively tell a salesman, hey, I'm not here to be your friend. I
Mhm.
just need my numbers.
Yeah. Hey man, I'd love to tell you everything about me, but I'm here just to get a price for windows. I don't mean to be rude or come off as this way, but I just want to stick to business. I have limited time. I got to get through this. I'm really interested in hearing your sales presentation and stuff like that, but I don't want to waste time to the point that I'm not going to be able to get the price that I'm looking for, right? Steer clear of personal stories. I mean, thinking what other business interaction when you go to Walmart, besides somebody being friendly, friendly's different. I'm not saying be unfriendly because sometimes that can be just as bad because there's sales guys that thrive off unfriendliness. And then it's like, can I flip this person? And then again, back to like last week, if I flip this person from being a mean person to a nice person, I just controlled them, which means they're super sellable. So it is a balance. You want to kind of be Sweden, right? Like in the middle, you're balanced. You're not one side or the other. You don't go to Walmart and the store clerk starts talking about your car, your house, your vacations, your family, your dogs. So why do they do that in the house? Understand it's for a reason and just prevent them from doing that. It can be nice. It can be, hey, I'm on limited time. They're going to say, hey, well, we'll reschedule. Well, you're here now. It's one shot, man. I got everything else is scheduled. I'm making a decision by the end of this week. I need this information now. Another way, sales guys will hate this. We call it a one legger. A one legger is when one buying party isn't home. If, a Mr. and Mrs. and the Mrs. is gone, or the Mr.'s gone, or it's a Mr. and one of the Mr.'s gone, and Mrs. won't be all inclusive, and the Mrs. is gone. Whatever it is, if one of the buying parties isn't there, sales guys are typically instructed not to pitch that.
High pressure
High
salespeople.
pressure. Inexperienced salespeople will still pitch that. So hope you get an inexperienced sales guy if you just want the information. But I think a lot of it goes back to together we can kill this process. Together by using stories. If you guys have a story or you have enough courage to turn on your phone and record your experience with somebody warming up with you in your house, we'd love to hear it. Send it, post it, get it to us somehow. We're doing a contest right now. The most interesting story will get something. We don't know what it is, but it's going to be something. Yep. And seriously, if we get enough submissions, because with that, we can start to expose what's actually going on so people don't just take our word for it. They can actually see it because this happens every single day. And the biggest way not to be prey is to not be a part of it.
Right.
So I think you're absolutely right. Like, just don't have people come to your house. If they're interested enough, they'll let you go to their business. You can walk out of their business. If it's just for pricing, tell them you can measure windows and take pictures. You know how we got technology nowadays? Everybody's got a cell phone camera. You can walk around, record yourself. People will have to come to your house eventually once you sign a contract to measure for the project, whatever that may be. But not until that point. You should keep your defenses up. You should understand that you are the mothership and you're being attacked by outside elements.
Yeah. And that's how you should look at it, because when these salespeople are in these sales meeting, or I should say, when us salespeople have been in these sales meeting, it's like an aggressive thing, like you versus the customer.
It is.
Either you're weak or the customer's weak, one of those two things. So right then and there, that's how they're training, that's how they're approaching it. So that's the mentality, even if they're showing up to the house with a smile, knowing they're going to warm up and knowing how to do it. So
And I'd say, just tagging on what you said, one of the biggest things is, yes, the sales guys are trained. It's like a rah-rah old high school, let's get them, yeah. And one of the things when somebody didn't sell as a manager, I'd make them call me and say, why didn't you sell? And I'd make that sales rep say, I was weak and pathetic. I was weak and pathetic, because the sales guy is the only person that controls the sale. It's not the customer. The customer's just there to buy. Even though it should be the opposite. Like, the customer is there to make the intelligent decision and buy, not be dictated by the sales guy. So if you don't take anything from this, take the fact they're trying to control you. It's not personal. Stick to business. You don't do that anywhere else. And that will save you from the warm-up process. And when all else fails, just call them out. Just say, hey, man, that's a good warm-up. I've been in sales too. Because guess what? They're thinking you're lying and they're lying. So just, if you got to lie, lie. That's a good lie.
What's crazy is, been in sales for a long time, been in a lot of houses, spoke with a lot of people. I think that there's only ever been one time where someone called me out and was like, "Hey man, I'm in sales. I know that you're doing this." And he called out the process. It, and I was pretty experienced at the time, but it was the first time it was happening and I honestly was like, "Yeah, you got me." Like,
Maybe you had an off day that day. Because I will say, the more experienced the sales guy, and this is a scary thing, the less you're going to know that they're doing it, the less you know. So, again, stay tuned because this is the only place that's really going to expose this kind of stuff. Next week, we're going to go into the third step. And you're going to have to check that out next week. Our whole goal here is to expose the sales process, to have people understand they don't need salespeople. They need good companies that have valuable services, and those will rise to the top, and they should sell themselves. With social media nowadays, if you're a good company, your company should be spread all over the place naturally. And it should be the buyers spreading the word, not the advertisers. Because you want to talk about corporations in America, there's your story right there.
yeah,
Stay tuned for next week. We're going to have plenty of great stuff. And at the end of this 10-part series, our goal is to write a buyer's guide. And eventually you'll be able to go on and see how maybe to buy windows or a pool or solar panels or all these different industries that are high prey categories. In other words, salesmen are pulling exorbitant commissions based off a sale.
yep. So, like we always like to say, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. If you have any questions now, please leave them in the comments, man. We will get back to you for free. We're not charging you. We're not sending you to a website. Hit us in the comments. We'll respond, and we're working on some giveaways, things that we're gonna be doing, a lot of cool stuff. So definitely, like I say, hit that like and subscribe. Stay tuned in for more, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be sold.
Don't be sold.